Welcome to the Sales Queen podcast, where we teach women how to turn their skills into sales and monetize their message so they can finally sell with the clarity, confidence, and certainty that they've always wanted to. No longer does the game of sales need to be an old boys club. It's time for you to sell like a queen. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sales Queen podcast. We are so excited today to be with Alejandro Reyes. I tried to say it the best I could, bro.
You did.
And he is a fellow Kingdom entrepreneur, and he's here to help you turn your God-given gifts, expertise, and passions into a thriving 6 or 7 figure business
Woo.
that changes the world. So Alejandro and I got connected a while back when I saw him do a challenge for somebody that we both follow and know, very well-known pastor in the game. And I've just been following you since, bro. And I'm super excited for you to kind of unveil everything of not only what I know about you, but also how you got started. And I
Yeah.
know that everybody today has a lot to learn from you. So thanks so much for being here.
Yeah. I just want to say, yes, Queen. It's a Sales Queen podcast. We're here. We're doing it. I'm so pumped to be here and just love all that you do for the kingdom and for your audience. You're killing it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Well, the first question I love to ask is always kind of like your origin story.
Mhm.
So, you don't have to go back to like birth, but basically,
Yeah.
when was the moment when you kind of knew that you were an entrepreneur? What was kind of that moment where you're like, man, maybe I'm supposed to do this and kind of live my calling with you kind of in the driver's seat. When did that moment happen? And then if there are parts of your childhood and kind of the come up that have to do with that too, feel free to share. I'm super excited to hear.
Yeah. So I grew up literally on the wrong side of the tracks
Hmm.
in Sacramento, California, and crazy dysfunctional home. My father left when I was 3 years old. My mom remarried an alcoholic that turned into drugs, and he ended up going to jail, get deported to Mexico. So just what was normal to our family might have been abnormal to like healthy families, and so I saw that the world through that lens. And my mom, she someone came to her office saying that, hey, you should come check out one of these hotel meetings. I was 17 at the time, and she's like, I don't really like to talk, but my son's always on the phone, and he might want to go. So as a senior in high school, I went to a network marketing meeting at a hotel. And a lot of people will say funny things about MLM, multi-level marketing, but it got a lot of these players online. A lot of the entrepreneurs that I know were introduced to entrepreneurship through network marketing and MLM. And what I realized, and I didn't join that company, but I did MLM after that. What I realized was that my parents, my mom and my father-in-law, or excuse me, my stepfather, what was they were bringing home working 2 jobs was just not gonna cut it for me. So I just knew I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I sucked at it for a long time. And in 1999, I read a book by Bill Gates. I think it's either The Road or Path to Success. Said by the year 2010, half of every dollar is going to be spent online. And for some reason, even to this day, 20 plus years later, it was etched into my mind. Like I got to figure out the online thing. Got to figure out the online game. And so, like I said, I was terrible for a long time. And the moment I got married is when things really started to shift for me. And that's where I started coaching, started doing launches, started this online game in the mid 2000s. And so that's kind of how it started. Was I just knew that I had no leverage doing it my mom and dad's way, and I wanted leverage, and I wanted to create wealth.
Absolutely. Coming from maybe a more impoverished environment, what was the first kind of light bulb for you? You said you read a Bill Gates book, but a lot of people who try entrepreneurship, right, or go into it, they fail for quite a long time because their mindset doesn't shift. What was the thing that caused you to actually think highly enough, not necessarily of yourself in like a pride way, but enough
Yep.
to believe in yourself enough to be like, hey, maybe I'm like called, like I can actually do this, to believe in yourself, you know?
No, that's a massive one. I think it's often overlooked because we want the hack, we want the tactic, we want all those things. But it's almost like getting saved. You get saved, and you still have really bad habits, and so maybe you backslide, as we don't say as much no more. But you backslide. So it's like being saved. It's like you get saved, you're being saved, and then you will become saved. And so it's a lot like I want to become an entrepreneur, and so I start doing the things, but there's still kind of the trauma, the childhood stuff, the stinking thinking, or whatever it was. Maybe you came from a great upbringing. However, your 12th grade teacher told you that you were entitled and never, and it stuck with you, right? So we all have things, and for the longest time, it literally from 99 to 2007 and 8, that's really I struggled a lot. We were literally, when our first year of marriage, I would budget how much my overdraft fees were going to be, because it'd be like 2 to 300. I would budget that, like, okay, if I do these, I'll only have a few overdraft fees. And it wasn't until I started hanging around mentors, I found like some multimillionaire mentors, and just started to learn from them. But even then, it's like everything they say goes against what you learn for 25 years, right? So I would say probably it's two things. One, it's the mentors, but two, it's that history and that ongoing relationship and lifestyle that can only happen through a relationship with Christ, right? So again, you're being saved, you're Christian, but like, do you have history with God? Has he come through for you over a long period of time? And so for me, it's still happening. I still have yak yaks in the back of my brain, but again, you fight against those things. You pray, you read your word, you have the right accountability partners and pastors in your life, and so that's really what shifted for me, those two things.
Yeah. You said you started hanging around multimillionaires, you got the right circles. How in the world did you do that, coming from this place of here's where I came from? I failed a million
Yeah.
times in entrepreneurship the first 8 years, and now you're finding yourself actually successfully in these circles, so you have mentors to pour into you.
Yeah, I think in another world, I would have wrote a book about like networking, and just everyone knows I know somebody that knows someone, or I got good relationships.
Yeah.
And I've always been like that, even in high school. One of my closest friends today, there was this kid when I was a sophomore, he was a senior, and he was a break dancer. He was like the coolest kid. I was shy, I was quiet, timid. And he wrote in my yearbook, it was the coolest thing. I was like, man, he said, make friends with everyone. And I'm like, okay, if I'm going to be popular like Eddie Tactile, then I need to make friends with everyone. So I hung out with the jocks, I hung out with the nerds, I hung out with the drama kids, I hung out with everybody. And that kind of translated into a business that I don't want to recommend because it's illegal, but I was kind of the guy that had some stuff. And so I translated that into for those that are in their 40s, Nokia phones. Nokia. Do you remember Nokia phones? They had this antenna. Well, I had a guy that hooked me up with antennas that lit. So when your Nokia cell phone rang, it was just really cool. I had different colors, so I'd buy them from him for
Oh,
$3, and I'd sell them for like $20.
yep.
And so I just was kind of like this, always this guy that was able to connect with people. Here's the tactical thing for those that are watching right now. If you position yourself as a learn it all versus a know it all, you'll get into rooms and you'll stay into rooms. No one, Megan, wants to talk to people that know it all. I don't even
Yep.
want to give you any insights. But if I play dumb, I want to learn. I think everyone has value no matter how much they make. And so people just give me advice, and so I just started going reaching out to people and connecting with people like, hey, I want, how can I serve you and help you in any way?
Mm,
Because I'd like to get some of your time if that's possible. And one thing I learned was the most successful people that I know, they someone paid it forward to them, and so they want to do the same. And so you actually probably have more access to talent, insights, resources, but we're sometimes scared to put ourselves out there because of the fear of rejection, right? And so
mm.
that's what I did. I just started reaching out to people, and about 4 or 5 people gave me their time. And it literally, like a 2 to 3 year period, it completely transformed the trajectory of my life as a result of putting myself out there and asking them for help.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. How would you recommend people doing that when maybe they feel, because I know there's a moment in every entrepreneur's life where you're deciding maybe to quit your full-time job, go full-time, and there's that scary like jumping off the ledge moment. I think so many people are afraid to serve people because they're also focusing on like how do I provide for my family? What was that like for you in terms of that jumping off point and almost like believing in faith, like I'm going to serve these people without an agenda, because I know that they have what I need to get to this next level, while also like, hey, I need to be like making money, at the same time.
Yeah, I think first of all, it's humility, and the Bible talks a lot about like this childlike, you know what I mean? Like we gotta act like we sometimes have to have this crazy radical faith where you believe that, like in the Indiana Jones movies, like once you step, the step happens. Like you have to take a step, and the moment you take it, it happens. Steve Harvey has this really cool video that went viral years ago. Was your parachute doesn't jump until you jump off the cliff. And just jumping and knowing that you're going to fail. That's the first thing. You're going to fail. You got to fail fast, fail forward, and fail often, as John Maxwell will say. And so that's the biggest thing. And then I also, on the flip side, kind of just trying to program my brain, like what is the worst that can actually happen? So people sometimes like, I want to post something on Facebook to get some, or Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn to get some leads, but it might not be as good as the way my peers or competitors might say. So let's just say you say that and you post it. What is the actual worst that can happen more than the fear of failure, fear of rejection, or
Mm,
success that you might have? Well, actually, you could just delete that post. So I think sometimes we have to communicate and talk to ourselves like what's actual worst that can happen, and
mm,
play that out. And you might realize, man, that's kind of silly. It wasn't actually that bad. I could just delete that post. Or if it was, I thought it was going to be 30 people that responded. If I got 5 people, well, then connect with those 5 people and start somewhere. They say
yeah.
the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. So what I would say is like, you know, just start, just do something to get the ball rolling that creates momentum.
Absolutely. So, in the in our conversation earlier, you were talking a little bit about don't be kind of a jack of all trades, and
Mm,
in preparation for this podcast too, you were talking about one of the things you wrote down that you love to talk about is helping people figure out like convincing people that you are the only one that can
mm,
do this. I think that attaches a lot to like purpose as well. So,
ooh.
what's kind of your recommendation for people discovering their niche, discovering their purpose, and in that positioning of I'm the only one who can help you like I can?
And it's actually biblical that you are the only one. It is biblical, right? So that gets me excited because now we have God's energy. I'm not talking foo for energy, but
Yeah.
God's like grace, his supernatural power on your life, that you're able to do things that you can't do on your own, right? So second Corinthians 10:13 says, for we will not boast beyond measure, we will only boast in regards to the area of influence that God has given, that God has assigned to us. So the
Hmm.
word measure there, this is Paul talking. I love Paul. He's awesome. And he talks, he's talking about two things. He's talking about a measure, which in the Greek is metron. Some verses call it like a sphere of influence.
Hmm.
And then assigned us. So like he's talking to the Corinthian church because they understand the Olympics. They understand there's a lane. So Paul's basically saying, I won't boast on the things that I don't know about, but I will
Hmm.
boast. I will have confidence. I will have clarity in regards to the area that God has assigned to me. So there's a measure. It's like the talents, parable of talents. We all have a measure, a sphere of influence that only we can do. So if we have the confidence in the word of God, we have confidence in God that the Holy Spirit will move in ways that we could not move, as long as we steward the lane, the metron that He's given us. like I get really excited because great things start to happen. You start to attract the right people and you start to repel the wrong people. All that to say, finding and picking an audience and niche, Megan, it should be the most painful thing you do because you're turning people away. You're saying no, you're leaving money on the table. If you pick a niche and it's like cool, then you haven't been specific enough. It's so competitive, so noisy right now. We have to discover what our metron is, what our sphere of influence is, who we're supposed to serve, and how we're supposed to serve them is the game right now.
Okay, I definitely want to dive deeper on that, because I completely agree with you. Like, people get so scared to either offend somebody, or whatever, but when they generalize themselves, they kick themselves out of I call them the sheep that you're actually called to shepherd, right? And
It's
at the
good.
same time, you're kind of putting yourself in a pool with everybody else who's even remotely in that same niche. So, in your coaching and consulting, how do you encourage people to actually have the courage to niche down, even if it means offending people, even if it means, like you said, not being able to serve some people, setting boundaries in that? How do you coach on that?
Yeah, well, the first thing I would just ask people, how's being broad working out for you?
Mm,
Like how is it actually working out? They could say whatever they want, but I know that they're either making money temporarily because it's not sustainable.
mm,
It's not a sustainable model. Like that's why a neurosurgeon will make more than a general practitioner.
yeah.
They're specialized, they're specific. Lasers perform open heart surgery. Like, so we got to have this like laser like
Mm,
focus, or else we're just going to be like everyone else. And I feel like, the Bible also talks about, I think in Peter, where we'll all have separate gifts and make the whole. So am I the feet? Am I the hands? Am I the thumbs? Am I the neck? Like where am I in this? What's my assignment in life? Right? Our purpose is to glorify God, and but our assignment's a little bit different on, okay, what are we supposed to do? And I think of Paul, and I love Paul because he built tents to fund his writings.
mm,
He built tents to fund the gospel. And so I got, how what is our tent? Like, yes, we're supposed to glorify God, the great commission. We're supposed to, Genesis 1:28, we're supposed to build cultures and civilizations and have reign on earth, right? Like those are our mandates, right? But what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to pastor? Am I supposed to, knit, scarves? Like, what am I supposed to do? And that's like the age old question, right? It's one of the most searched things in Google. Like, what is my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing here?
yeah.
And it's trial and error. It's trial and error. And what I will say on this, what keeps people stuck is they don't actually try. They want to perfect everything first before creating an offer.
Mm,
And for us, that we actually flip that on its back, and we actually try to validate offers. If it doesn't work, instead of being sad and bummed out, we're like, okay, that's not it. And sometimes we have to trial and error. I'm like a 20-year overnight success, right? Like it's taken me so many different offers to really fine tune. And I think we continue to figure this stuff out. One of my clients is in his 50s. He didn't find his calling till he was 50 years old.
mm.
And he was a lawyer before that, was a pastor before that. And now he's having more impact, 25 million downloads of a podcast, as a result of trial and error and figuring things out. And so yeah, this is something I'm fascinated chatting about.
Yeah, I love that. Earlier you said, initially, although like when you were talking about, not being able to serve everybody. And then you
Mm,
said something that I want to dive deeper in, where you were like, you may make less money, but I know, in the reality of the grand scheme of things, you make way more money when you
correct.
actually niche down and you find your people. So can you explain that a little bit more for maybe somebody who's like, wait, but I want to make more money, right? On how actually niching down is the pathway to the most financial freedom.
You're leaving the wrong money on the table.
Mm,
And the more niche you can get. So I've been spent several million dollars in Facebook ads. If I wanted to come out of Facebook ads course, I would title it, I may title it Facebook ads course. Very broad. But let's say I wanted to target people like in our space.
Yeah.
So let's say I go Facebook ads for coaches, consultants, and course creators. Okay, cool. That's one niche. I've niched it down. I can niche it even further. I can say Facebook ads for Christians, for Christian coaches, creators, and consultants. Great. That's probably good, but I can actually go even further than that, and I can niche it down to Christian Facebook ads for Christian coaches that are doing six figures,
Yeah.
right? And for that broad one, I might charge $27 because that's probably what the market's going to pay for a broad one. But I can charge a Christian coach that wants to get to seven figures. I can probably charge them like 10, 20, 30 grand as a result. So I think you can go higher ticket. You could charge more as a result of the specificity because that person knows it's a smaller market, but they're going, they know my problems. They have similar core values. They've been there before. It's not going to be some basic stuff. You see what I'm saying? So
Yep.
sometimes we got to get a little. I want to niche down to make more money. You actually make more money, and it's kind of counterintuitive that way, but that's what happens.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Okay, turning the gears a little bit more to practical, like Facebook and things like that. So you are Facebook group, Facebook group, Facebook group, right? How did you come to figuring out that this is ultimately what you wanted your offer to be? Building communities, challenges, different master classes, things like that. And what was a little bit of the journey to ultimately discovering that
Yeah.
this was your thing, at least for right now?
Well, remember my friend Eddie Tactile. He said meet everybody. And when web 1.0, I was terrible. It was like, you do Google ads, you got email, you do I just didn't know how to do that stuff. When social media, we called it web 2.0 at first. When social media 2004, 2005 started hitting, I was like, dude, this is for kids like me that want to be the life of the party, that want to hang out, kiss babies on the forehead, shake hands. I was like, dude, this is it. And so in 2008 or nine, I got it early on Twitter. And so Twitter was like online, but I was like, man, like, how can I cultivate community here in my Sacramento, in my backyard? So we started, I was like, hey, we're going to host a tweet up, like a meetup, but it was kind of a funny, catchy name. And we hosted these little tweet ups, and no one wanted to host it. Panera Bread was the only person that would host it the very first month. We had
Hmm.
64 people there, and we smelled like bread when we left. But we were trending on Twitter. Trending topics had to become a thing, and so many people were posting Sack Tweet Up that we became a trending topic. And so as a result of that, it grew to where we were doing 200-300 people coming out to a business networking event every single month, and then every quarter we would do these workshops. So I do these free events, and then I invite them out to my 1 day or 2 day workshops that we were doing. Then we had a conference. But what ended up happening was I started realizing that if you're the tribe leader, there's a very fascinating dynamic where you, instead of going from the hunted, or excuse me, a hunter, you
Yep.
become the hunted. So
Yep.
you're just there putting on, creating value for people. And people started reaching out to me to the point where in Sacramento, in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, I was on every major media outlet, on the news, radio, TV, magazines, talking about social media really early on.
Hmm.
And so again, I became the hunted. So I started realizing if I can create communities on offline, it's probably so much more easy to do it online. So we'd use emails, we'd use Facebook, and then groups came out. I was like, this is the coolest thing ever.
Hmm.
And so quietly over the last several years, we've been using them for clients to kind of cultivate, nurture, and build community to foster that know, like, and trust faster than a lot of what's transactional now, Megan, is like, VSL, webinar. And again, I love those things. We still use them. But if the only time I ever see you, Megan, is when I have to sell you something, that's a very transactional model. And I like building relationships with people because I understand that if over time, I don't want you to just buy from me once, I want you to buy from me for years to come. And
Hmm.
so community is like, I say audience and community is like the ultimate cheat code for you online. Look at Mr. Beast, $1 billion someone offered for his community, and he turned it down. And so I think there's a lot of value in that. And I think that's where the model of human behavior, like they like gravitating towards community. It's like a church, right?
Mhm.
And so that's why I love community.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What are some of the things that you think or that you've seen people do wrong when they're like, "Okay, I'm gonna make a Facebook group and I'm gonna post once a week and I'm gonna, do all the things that everybody's told me that I should be doing. I should be messaging people, I should be creating good content." Where do you think that, or where have you seen, through all the data, that people go wrong or they kind of lose steam? And is the difference between like some results, good results, and like dynamite results?
Yeah, it literally goes back to specificity. They have a very general group
Mm,
for everyone. And, Sally Hogstead, popularized, she says, different is better than better. And I really love that because, it's so crowded. Every year we say it. It's like 10 years ago, we were saying it's so crowded online. Well, the pandemic really sped that. Like
yeah.
everyone is going online. They're figuring out ways. Recessions here, right? Like people are trying to come online and figure out ways to diversify. And so that's the biggest thing. You want people, Megan, when they see your ads, when they see your emails, when they see your groups, when they see your training, you don't want them to go like, is that for me? And they
Yeah.
may reluctantly join or opt in or sign up, but they're not going to be engaged. If you have something so piercing, so focused, people are going to go, this is for me. Ever been in a church service? Well, the preacher preaches and it's like, dude, this message was only for me. You
Mhm.
remember those stories, you remember the date, you remember the experience you had. And so the marketers and entrepreneurs and coaches that are going to win long term are the ones that are so specific by inviting you into what was the hook and the invite, whether that's a training, whether that's a lead magnet. That's the thing. It's the ones that are not doing well are generic groups.
Hmm. That's actually really interesting that you put it that way, because I think that's where, like, as Christians, we should have an advantage. Think about it.
Of
People who
course.
don't have a spiritual life, and of
Mm,
course, you've got people that believe in other things too, and that is their spiritual life. But like, we have, like you said, values based stuff that is another sub niche that we can
mm,
really make people feel at home.
so
And
good.
I think on top of that, and we could probably talk about this all day, but like so many of my millennial friends I know have been deeply hurt by churches
Mm,
and deeply
mhm.
hurt by the spiritual community, that they're so hungry for people that will disciple them. You know what I
So
mean?
good.
And so even if for many of you guys listening, maybe you're like, well, I'm not a B2B offer. Like, I'm not going to teach Facebook ads. You know how many people I know who are killing it, like teaching, hey,
Mm.
you matter, and like you have a purpose, and like, hey, let's
You
talk
ever heard
about
of Tony
things that,
Robbins?
you
There's
know?
Tony Robbins, there's Rachel Hall. There's so many people that want to be led, they want to be seen, they want to be heard. So it's not just about this tactical stuff. If people feel seen and heard, you've alleviated that problem that they face. And that's where kind of it boils down to is what is the present problem or pain? Maybe it's
Mm,
grief. Maybe there's a group, not a grief group, but a grief group for single men. You
mm,
gotta niche down because shared core values, Frank Kern would say, are some of the most persuasive things ever. So this is why someone like a Trump did well because of shared core values.
mm,
And this is why I think Christians have an advantage is because of shared core values. Like the moment I knew you were Christian, it's like we this is the first time we've ever talked. We've
yeah,
DM'd and hung out and stuff like that. But there's just a connection as a result because we have something that is connecting us and linking us that is powerful. And
yeah,
so that's what I think, like you said, Christians have this unfair advantage to start sharing what they believe, and being okay with like being a little bit polarizing. Like making people like, oh, that's kind of they're taking a stand. And I think you got to start to be a little bit more polarizing in your marketing at the top of the funnel. And then as you get down, you don't have to be as polarizing, but really when you start to market, it's got to sound different than someone else.
absolutely. I love that. Okay, again, kind of a tactical question. So thinking like top of funnel to bottom of funnel. Um,
Mm,
so what is kind of the process if somebody is saying, okay, great, like you've knocked over the big domino. I believe in groups now. Like I know I need to be doing them. What are some high level like recommendations, I guess, for people? Like I'll give you an example. Do we have to create a new Facebook group every time we do a challenge and run ads and do these things? Can I repeat a Facebook group? Like do I have to be sending 50 emails in an email sequence? Because I think so often, like, it's easy to get overwhelmed too, right? Maybe they have been doing VSL to strategy call to whatever, but now they're having a new baby and they're like, that's just not going to work for
mm,
me anymore. I need like one to many. Can you kind of take people through just some of the
yeah.
overview of some of those things to encourage them?
Yeah, so a full funnel approach to this is top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. I look at top of the funnel. At any given time, 10% of people are ready to buy, 80% are might buy, and then another 10% are just never going to buy.
Yeah.
So when we're doing to VSL to sales, it's 10%, and it works for so many people. And we still do these, we still believe in them. Just depends on where at in the funnel. But it's not a top of funnel strategy. It's a very much bottom of funnel strategy. What I'm
Mm,
interested on the 80% of people that might buy. And so we're wasting money if we're only seeing getting in front of people to sell them. So at the top of the funnel, which is the biggest part of the funnel, there's the most potential of the funnel, and yet like 5% to 0% of people's budgets are spent on top of the funnel. So
mm,
top of the funnel, I want to create, and I'll give your audience this too. It's a Google Doc with nothing on it. It's called a magnetic video ad script. It's a video ad that uses the problem agitate solution framework. It's about a 2 to 3 minute video. And it basically, the purpose of that video is to kind of draw a line in the sand and talk to your specific, perfect, ideal client. And very, very simple. Hey, in this video, I'm going to show you the number one mistake that Christian coaches scaling to 7 figures are making. Very specific. And then I go
yeah.
into not like, hey, so here are 3 ways. Like, no, it's perspective shifting. So
Mm,
philosophies is one of the is something that helps pre-sell. Philosophy does. They want to know your viewpoint that sounds different than all these 7 tactics, 8 tactics, 3 tactics. That does you a lot of disservice sometimes. And so top of the funnel is all about video, and I throw like $5 a day at that. So you can right now start to do that over the course of the 3 to 6 months. You'll have thousands, 10,000, maybe even 100,000 views, shares, comments. Okay. Middle of the funnel, I could now retarget those people that watched a portion of that video. But to me, middle of funnel, I want them to cross the chasm from free. I'm aware of you to I'm actually kind of interested maybe in working with you or learning more, joining, what you're up to. And this is where I like to cross the chasm to an email, a group, a Discord, school, or whatever it is. I want them to exchange something because they've received value, and it's a thumbs up. Like, I like that first thing you talked about, Alejandro. And so this is where we nurture people. This is where we do challenges, where we do all this. And then at the bottom of the funnel is kind of like your sales process. So people use webinars, strategy sessions. We use DMs and Google Docs and PDFs. And so that's kind of a full funnel approach to the way that we think of. And that is my entire business model. I feel like I'm a one trick pony, but that trick's really good. And that's what we do. We have a full funnel approach. It's the right message to the right audience at literally the right place, right? So that's really where we're at with it.
Yeah, absolutely love that. I think that's one of the clearest ways I've heard it said. And I'm curious on your thoughts on this too. Like, where have you seen maybe at mile markers? I love to break this down because I realized in my own journey from, 0 to 7 figures, there were definitely like uh go, okay, stop here for a while, got stuck, go, got stuck here. Like for me it was kind of like 0 to 10K was a lot of like mindset and like learning how to be responsible for myself. You know what I mean? And like
Mm.
do the things. And then maybe 10 to 50K, there's another one. Da, 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 da. For you, maybe what were some of those jumps and the biggest life lessons that you learned about yourself, your habits, your discipline, how you had to think that have gotten you to jumping to who you are and where you are financially today?
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the last one because I want to be super clear and tactical. Like, man, Alejandro, what do I do at the what do the ads look at the middle of the funnel? What do the ads look at the
Cool.
bottom of the funnel? I talked to you about the top of funnel. That's a 2-minute magnetic video. The second one is an invitation. Hey guys, Alejandro here. You might have seen my videos, if not, but I'm hosting a free training called something so specific, their present pain point, so we can get them quick, meaningful win. And that's just an invite into the group. It could be an ad, but I love doing video. And then the bottom of the funnel, I do this thing called the 3 reasons why. The 3 reasons why is to sign people up. And Influence Cialdini talks about this. And if you just give people a reason to do something, they'll do it. So we do
Mm,
3 reasons. Hey guys, Alejandro here. You might be on the fence about joining Sales Queen. No, I'm just joking. I don't know, but and here they are. Number one is this. Number two is this. Number three. Hey, and those are the 3 things, and then we sign them up. So those are like three. If you have those three, all of our clients have 3 of these videos running
mm,
all the time, you have an automatic engine that is building awareness, that is generating email list and group members, and generating sales for you on a consistent basis, or moving people closer to a sales as possible. So I just wanted to make sure, like, hey, we're super tech. What does he mean by that? I want to give you exactly what you should be doing.
love
So
it.
the mile markers, for me, I worked at a company called PushPay, got to $100 million in 2 years. They gave me $500,000 a month in advertising to spend. And
Wow.
what got us to 10 million, we used to always say it's not the thing that's going to get us to 30 million. And the thing that got us to 30 million, it was probably not going to be the thing to get us to $100 million. And so I worked in senior leadership there, one of 10 that worked in senior, to really kind of, instead of playing checkers, we were actually playing like chess at that level. And so for me, I think, to get to $10,000, it's usually within your warm audience. You could get to $10,000 a month
Yeah.
for the most part. 90 days, you can get to $10,000 a month with your warmish audience. But the problem is people blow through that pipeline, right? In sales, they blow through that pipeline and they simultaneously weren't building an engine. That's why I brought that engine up, is because you want to continue to add. It's almost like going fishing and continually adding fish to the pond,
Hmm.
or it's going to bigger ponds, and you're a little bit more skilled at it, and you're getting more fish from new ponds. And so that's probably the biggest thing preventing people, is they like, man, I'm at like 5 to 10K a month, sometimes 20K sometimes, but man, I got to brute force, and like I got to do more sales call, got to work 50, 60 hours a week, but they don't have the engine rolling. And so once you have this engine rolling, then I think a team, building some team, is really key after like 30K, 50K a month.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. My next question that I want to ask, so you have done a million things in terms of, I was just looking at your bio again. You are on YouTube. You have become a master of grabbing attention. You've worked with Disney, Target, Walmart, Christine Kane, all these different brands. Is there a universal kind of like word of encouragement for people that maybe are in that place of stuck, whether it's brand new or 10K, and they're just starting to lose some steam, and they're like, man, I don't know how much longer I can do this. I just feel like such an imposter. Everybody online is killing it, and they know that it's just a smoke show, or whatever, and that no one's life's perfect, but they're just really like feeling like they're in the valley, and they are this close to now questioning themselves whether this is even their calling. Like, what would you say to them who are maybe stuck in that place?
Well, first of all, that's what I call my wife. You said smoke show. No, I'm just joking.
I love it.
She would roll her eyes over here. Those preachers that call their wives smoking hot wife. Oh my god.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I think
Uh,
yeah, I think the first thing. So we worked. We had a family YouTube channel, and I bring this up because I think it will be helpful. We had a YouTube channel with like 35,000. It wasn't a ton of people. When we're getting brand deals, it was like 20,000. Friends of ours were like multi 7-figure family vloggers. And I just was like, there's just no way. So Disney came calling and they're like, "Hey, want to do a deal with you?" I was like, "Okay, $750." Like, cool. So we got flown out to Disney. They put us up in like this really nice place in Hollywood Hills, and it was insane. We did a couple commercials. We did one with Target, one with Disney while we were there. Got to go to Disneyland for a couple days. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, this is the life. I'm a YouTuber, like $750, but we got so much. My buddy Benji goes, man, you probably could have made 10 times more of that. So we started doing a few other deals, and then we had this really big opportunity come. And he's like, bro, start charging like 5 to 7,000. So I quoted a brand $6,000. I was so scared. So like $6,000 like per video, and I was getting like $1,000 per video. How am I going to do that? So they're like, okay, great. We want to do like 6 or 7 of those. I'm like, what? And so what I realized was we were niche. We didn't need millions of followers. Brands are looking and we're looking for Hispanic families that they can put in front of. And so that was like really helpful for me to really understand the value of niche,
Mm,
of really focus. And we have something that people needed.
mm,
I quoted to answer your question, I quoted that scripture earlier, that lane, that sphere of influence. I actually believe it's grossly irresponsible to not tap into the and steward the God-given talents and skills and gifts that he's given us, because they you might be the only person that can help alleviate someone's grief. You might be the only person qualified to help someone through a traumatic experience. You might be the only one that can help someone that's stuck in their business. It's more of a challenge from me, like grace is the supernatural enabling power that God will allow you to do something that you could not do on your own. Like if you tap into the grace of God in your life, like and constantly thinking about that, like that's the thing that's really going to help you get out of bed, start posting, start thinking, you know what I mean? It's instead of, because I think sometimes we end up stuck, we don't want to post things, and it becomes this like vicious circle of like, I've been there. I've been there where like I'm just stuck. I don't want to do anything. I just want to sleep. I don't want to post. I'm nervous, fear of rejection. But
yeah.
it's really speaking and and communicating to myself that like I have a responsibility and mandate from God to use these God-given gifts to help and empower others. And so if I make it about God, then it's different because it's not about me. It's not about me. So what I would say is it's not about you. Maybe find a partner, hire a coach, hire Megan, hire someone, get connected, get into a mastermind, get connected with other people. One puts 1,000 a flight, two, 10,000. God's math does not make sense. But if you start getting around people, your fan will be flame. You start to stir up ideas, people. God's spoken to me once audibly, but a lot of times he'll speak through community. God hides his voice a lot of times in community and through friends and through mentors and coaches. And so that's what I would recommend. If you are at a place where you're stuck, find a mentor, hire that person, go work for them for free, do something.
Amen, bro. Man, I felt the anointing on that. Like that almost made me cry because
Oh,
it is just like, whew, like some of the things that you said today, just to encourage you, like are exactly like what I've heard come out of my own mouth, and really like
mm,
not in like a, oh, I'm so whatever. Like
yeah,
I believe it's the Lord, and I believe the Lord
yeah,
wants to get this message out to his people
amen.
because there's I know for me, one thing that grieves my husband and I's spirit is that we wake up every day and we see these idiots with billions of dollars giving money
Mm,
towards these things that are
mm,
killing people or doing
mm,
things that I vehemently disagree with as a Christian. And I'm just like, I've got to believe that that grieves God's heart, and he says that the wealth of
mm,
the wicked is laid up for the hands of the just. And
mm,
I saw it actually on your bio, I wanted to tell you this, that you're on a mission to help 10,000 Christians make 100 grand. That
mm.
literal exact statistic is on my website.
Oh,
And so I'm
wow.
just like,
That's so
God,
cool.
thank you, Jesus, that you're speaking to,
Yeah.
your body, because there's not enough of us. There's not enough of us.
Yeah. And
And
and here and here's one thing. You can reach people. I just can't. Like there's just no way, and vice versa. Yes, there's a little bit of crossover, But for those that are watching, they probably look at you and look at me like, I just can't do that. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just not that smart. I'm not that talented. I'm not that cute. Like, we always have those things. But what you and I, like, we want to partner with you. We want to,
Yes.
Megan, we want to partner with you. We want to fan your flame. We want to hang out with you. We want you to be on the podcast. You
Mm.
know what I mean? And if it's one person that says, you know what, no kidding, no matter what, I'm gonna write the top 3 things tomorrow I'm supposed to do that I've been putting off. And I'm actually just I'm gonna go do those things. And then the next day, guess what? I'm gonna write down the top 3 things I'm supposed to do today. It's these baby steps, these how can
Yeah.
I get better 1% every single day? And if you do that, man, you'll slowly start to grow. You get on my radars, you get on Megan's radar, you start getting encouragement from us, and you join communities. And so I get excited about this stuff, man. Anyway, sorry, I'm just getting sidetracked here. Get
I love it.
excited, man. Getting, yeah, goosebumps.
Same. Well, that's purpose, and for anybody
Hmm.
watching or listening too, like there's something that you get jacked about. There's something that wakes you up out of bed or keeps you up at night, and it's usually
Mm,
attached to the people that you're called to serve. So that's
so
very
good.
real. And for anybody who maybe is like, well, I don't have that. I promise you, like even sometimes go back to the last time that you got really angry about something, or the last
Mm,
thing that just maybe you were walking through and you saw something happen, you saw an injustice happen, or you saw somebody not living up to their potential. I know for me, I never understood myself growing up because I'd get really, really affected by people. And when
mm,
somebody either misunderstood my character or they tried to
mm,
put me in a box, or for me, other women in my life that would just try and smush me down and tell me to be this quiet little perfect Mary, whatever. And I just like the Holy Spirit would speak to me and I was like, God, if that's me, like please purify my heart. And I'd be on my knees as a
it's
little
good.
girl being like, God, if this is wrong for me to have a voice, like change my personality. I remember being on my
Yes.
knees being like, God, change my personality. And then finally God was like, baby girl, like this, I made you kind of loud, and like this is how I made you. I
That's
called you
so
to
good.
be, I call it a sword, not a shield. I'm like, yeah,
Mm,
sometimes like I'm gonna cut people, but I'm also like digging the ground and showing people what's
yeah,
possible. And I look
so
at a
good.
field and I say, wow, that could be a real estate complex. That could be whatever. And
Come
so
on.
God has that for all of you guys watching and
Mm,
listening. But pay attention to those little nudges from the Holy Spirit because He is
yeah.
pointing you towards your calling. If you'll just listen. So Alejandro, last thing that I would love for you to say is just anything that you feel like we didn't cover, or any other kind of words of wisdom that you want to share with people as kind of a last message. And then how can people find you? How can people follow you? How can people join your groups? Any lead magnets that you have, anything like that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's 2 things. It's the Holy Hustle. It's the podcast that you're gonna be on. It's my podcast. And there's 2 parts, right? People talk about the hustle and they're like, "Oh man, like the hustle culture." And I get all of that. But like we were built, like we were created, to work and work hard. We work 5 days a week here. It's actually like there's actually 6 days of work in the Bible. And I keep in mind, I work 8 to 2 p.m. Monday through Thursday. Take Fridays off. But what I'm saying is I've never met someone that had wealth that didn't work hard. So
Amen.
there's a lot of Christians that like I'm going to faith this. I'm going to name it and claim it, blab it and grab it. Like I'm gonna God is gonna come. God is gonna come. It's like that one saying where there's like flood and like they bring a boat. And then you're on the top. And it's like then they bring a hell. God's got my back. Nope, don't worry. God. Well, that was actually God sending those people. And so sometimes we have the faith, the holy, but we don't have the hustle. And then there's times where we work really hard and we're excellent, we're doers, we're achievers, but God is not in the driver's seat. God is not involved. And so I just want to encourage people, like it's that holy hustle. It's that, man, I want to build civilizations and culture and reign and have dominion on earth. When you see those billionaires, like you said, then you're just like, man, they're just wasting on it. But God is wanting us, this remnant, to like create wealth so we can be the ones to buy a Twitter, and say, oh, that's never happened. But why not? And so I just want to encourage you guys to work really hard, but have God at the forefront of everything that you do. And
Mm.
so that'd be my encouragement for folks today. And they can hang out with me and Alejandro Reyes most places.
Awesome. And we will have all of your links in the show notes.
Sweet.
Thank you so much for such a powerful just encouragement and words of wisdom today, Alejandro. Thank you everybody for watching and listening, and we'll see y'all next week.